A man suspected to have ridden a jet ski all the way from the mainland to Victoria Harbour in Hong Kong. The Trump administration announces higher tariffs for 14 nations, but still open to negotiations. And Israel's Prime Minister nominates Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. A man was suspected to have ridden a jet ski from the mainland into Hong Kong waters in recent days. The saga has not only made waves online, but also sparked concerns over border control and maritime safety issues. Online footage shows a man allegedly jet skiing from the mainland all the way to Victoria Harbour. Other clips circulating on Chinese social media platforms also capture the man from Guangxi riding the watercraft in Hong Kong waters. Being Hong Kong's iconic and often busy waterway, is Victoria Harbour off-limits to jet skis? According to local boating experts, jet skis are treated as pleasure vessels such as yachts and may enter the harbour but must adhere to strict speed limits. Terry Feng, founder of the club Cyclone Runner, which offers courses to yacht operators, said all jet skis must be registered with a license number. Operators are also required to hold a valid pleasure vessel operator Grade 2 certificate. However, in mainland China, personal watercraft usually do not require registration, insurance, or a license to operate, Feng said. Under the shipping and port control regulations, all vessels, including yachts and personal watercraft, must obtain prior permission from the Marine Department at least 24 hours before entering Hong Kong waters. Failure to comply with the rule may result in a maximum fine of $50,000. According to the immigration ordinance, all incoming or outgoing vessels are required to submit crew and passenger details to the Immigration Department for clearance as well. Non-compliance carries a maximum fine of $120,000. In the case of illegal entry, offenders may face a maximum fine of $25,000 and imprisonment for up to 3 years. Terry Feng added that in areas with heavy jet ski traffic, the Marine Police often conduct routine checks on licenses to ensure compliance. Transport sector lawmaker Frankie Yik said larger vessels are equipped with automatic identification systems, which must be switched on while sailing. Once activated, Hong Kong authorities are able to detect them via radar systems. Yik suggests the government should upgrade the system to flag any non-local vessel that has not been pre-registered entering Hong Kong waters. He has also proposed deploying more drones for surveillance. The Marine Police said enforcement actions will be taken upon any detection of illegal activities. The police started drone patrols in the border region and Kowloon West last month. Commissioner of Police Zhou Chao said 4 cases were cracked with the help of drones. He said more drones will soon patrol the Peak and Cheung Chau. The police chief shared the results of the drone patrol scheme with the Yau Chi Mang District Council. He said among the 4 cases assisted by the drones, 2 were related to the space oil drug. He added that 1,350 more sets of CCTV will be installed in public areas, on top of the 615 already set up in the city. He said the force will look into using AI to help with facial recognition. Tropical storm Dan is headed for China's eastern seaboard today as Zhejiang and Fujian provinces brace for its landfall. Packing winds of around 80 kilometers per hour at the center, Danaz is forecast to move west or west-southwest in the general direction of Zhejiang. Forecasters also anticipate Danaz to batter neighboring Fujian province, prompting the local maritime authority to suspend passenger shipping. Rail authorities have announced the suspension of some train services passing through Hangzhou, Shenzhen, Taizhou, and Wenzhou. This Danaz is also expected to usher in persistent downpour to Guangdong, Jiangxi, and Funan provinces. U.S. President Donald Trump has told America's trading partners that they face sharply higher tariffs from August 1st. But he also says he is open to extensions if countries make proposals. Japan and South Korea are among more than a dozen nations planning to engage in trade talks with the U.S. to try and reach an agreement. China has warned the Trump administration against reigniting trade tensions by restoring tariffs on its goods next month and threatened to retaliate against nations that strike deals with the U.S. to cut China out of supply chains. Tracy Furness reports.
President Donald Trump on Monday set a 25% tax on imports from Japan and South Korea, as well as new tariff rates on goods from other nations, such as Malaysia, Kazakhstan, South Africa, Laos and Myanmar. The higher tariffs will go into effect on August 1st.
I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today, and there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet, and that's what this administration continues to be focused on.
Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said U.S. imposed tariffs on Japanese imports would have an impact on the country, but added negotiations continue, aiming to reach a mutually beneficial agreement while protecting Japanese interests. Washington and Beijing agreed to a trade framework in June that restored a fragile truce, but with many details still unclear. Traders and investors on both sides of the Pacific are watching to see if it will unravel or lead to a lasting détente. The average U.S. tariff on Chinese exports now stands at 51.1%, while the average Chinese duty on U.S. goods is 32.6%.
Oh, we've spoken to everybody. We know everything. It's all done. I told you, we'll make some deals. Now we've made a deal with United Kingdom. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India. Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal. So we just send them a letter. If you want to play ball, you have to. This is what you have to pay.
After a call with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Ireland's Prime Minister Michel Martin told reporters that his country remains hopeful that the bloc can reach a framework deal on trade with the US this week. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Gaza peace talks continue, with U.S. President Donald Trump saying it's going well as he hosts Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington. Netanyahu nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize as the pair discuss a potential 60-day truce between Israel and Hamas. Hamas has responded positively to the deal that would see hostages returned and Israeli forces retreat. David Garrett reports.
Benjamin Netanyahu arrives to meet President Trump in Washington, the Israeli Prime Minister's office issuing these pictures with the US media's access limited in a rare move by the Trump administration. Trump with a kiss for Sura Netanyahu and a firm handshake between Trump and her husband. There's no sound on the video as the pair briefly speak. A more relaxed atmosphere inside Blair House, a guest residence near the White House famed for centuries of diplomatic discussions. Netanyahu with Trump to celebrate their great victory over Iran after America joined its ally in bombing Iranian nuclear sites. Gaza on the agenda with a 60-day truce plan on the table, a chance for peace between Israel and Hamas. Reporters now allowed to ask, why the delay?
I don't think there's a holdup. I think things are going along very well. They just, left each other, and it was not a pleasant period of a few days. It was a little longer than a few days, but this was not a pleasant period of time.
The president also questioned about his plan to relocate Palestinians and make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East.
Bibi, why don't I let you answer that question?
Mr. President,
wait a minute. He's got to answer the question.
I think President Trump had a brilliant vision. It's called free choice. If people want to stay, they can stay. But if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. It shouldn't be a prison. It should be an open place and give people a free choice. We're working with the United States very closely about finding countries that will seek to realize what they always say, that they want to give the Palestinians a better future. And
Netanyahu offering a further endorsement of Trump's vision for the Middle East.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow.
No peace yet in Gaza as the sun comes up on the enclave, explosions on the horizon. The United Nations is predicting an imminent internet blackout. Some 30% are unable to eat daily amid what the UN says is a surge in the killing and hospitalisations of Gazans seeking aid. These people are some of the estimated 700,000 displaced during the 21-month conflict. They queue for clean drinking water in 30-degree heat, waiting for word from Washington. They say they cannot go home until there is a ceasefire. David Garrett, TVB News.
The death toll from catastrophic flooding in Texas has surpassed 100 as search teams plow through muddy riverbanks and fly planes over flood-ravaged central Texas in the hope of finding more survivors. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump is planning to visit the devastated hill country of the southern state. This time-lapse video shows water from Llano River in Kingsland, Texas, rising within minutes last Friday, blocking access to pedestrians and vehicles alike. The racing flash flood slammed into camps and homes along the edge of the Guadalupe River before daybreak on Friday. Officials said the region remained especially vulnerable to renewed flooding due to the saturated condition of the soil and the debris strewn around the river channel. This as debate intensified over how state and local officials reacted to weather alerts forecasting the possibility of a flash flood and the lack of an early warning system that might have mitigated the disaster. Texas officials vowed that the state would step up to pay for installing a flash flood warning system in the affected areas by next summer if local governments cannot afford it. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has defended her record as the European Union's executive body faces a censure motion. The motion was proposed by a group of mainly far-right lawmakers in the European Parliament. A vote on it has been set for Thursday. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The censure motion contains a mix of allegations against European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. EU lawmakers will vote on it on Thursday with a two-thirds majority required to pass. The allegations include claims she text messaged privately with the boss of vaccine maker Pfizer during the COVID-19 pandemic, misused EU funds, and of interference in elections in Germany and Romania. Von der Leyen led the effort to find vaccines for around 450 million European citizens during the pandemic. The Commission proposes EU laws and supervises whether those that enter force are respected. Romanian lawmaker Gheorghe Pipărea, who championed the motion and hails from the right-wing populist Alliance for the Union of Romanians, accused von der Leyen of distorting facts and trying to bypass the European Parliament. In response, von der Leyen accused her political adversaries of peddling conspiracies about her and the pandemic.
It is taken right from the oldest playbook of extremists. Polarizing society, eroding trust in democracy, with false claims about election meddling, attempting to rewrite the history, how successful Europe overcame the global pandemic together, from vaccines to Next Generation EU, spinning debunked conspiracies about text message.
The censure motion marks a strong sign of discontent with the former German defence minister and her backers. Von der Leyen hails from the European People's Party, or EPP, a political family uniting conservative parties across the 27-nation bloc and the biggest group in the Assembly. Other pro-European centrist groups have also taken aim at the EPP for working with hard-right parties to seal deals. The second biggest political group, the Socialists and Democrats, said the censure motion is a result of the EPP's irresponsibility and the double games. The threat of a parliamentary censure motion in 1999 forced the European Commission, led at the time by Jacques Santer from Luxembourg, to resign over fraud, mismanagement and nepotism allegations. Danaral, TV News.
And still ahead. The BRICS summit concludes in Brazil with member states resisting Donald Trump's tariff threat. And 95% of primary six leavers assigned to their top 3 choices of secondary schools. Welcome back. The 2-day BRICS summit of heads of state and government concluded in Rio de Janeiro on Monday. Member states have resisted the latest tariff threat by U.S. President Donald Trump, with Chinese Premier Li Qiang calling on countries to stand firm against unilateralism and protectionism. Li met Director General of the World Trade Organization on the sidelines and said China is ready to join hands with the international community to get the world economy back on track. Danny Zhou has a story.
The final day of the BRICS summit was dedicated to addressing issues including climate change and eradicating neglected diseases. Leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa and other members and partner nations had reached consensus on a declaration that sealed commitment to enhancing multilateralism, defending international law and working for a more equitable global order. The Statement on Global Governance of Artificial Intelligence and the Climate Finance Framework Declaration were adopted by acclamation. When addressing the plenary sessions, Premier Li Qiang highlighted the need to maintain stability and smoothness of industrial and supply chains in his call for building an open world economy. Li said greater BRICS cooperation should uphold the fundamental principles of the WTO while promoting trade and investment liberalization and facilitation. He backed the expansion of the new development bank and welcomed qualified Global South countries to invest in China's financial market. Li announced a China BRICS Research Center on New Quality Productive Forces will be built this year, and China is planning to set up a scholarship for members of the bloc to facilitate talent cultivation in industry and telecommunications. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has warned an extra 10% duty on emerging economies aligned with what he branded as anti-American positions, hitting back at BRICS' criticism of unilateral trade barriers. The remarks drew a sharp rebuke from the Brazilian leader. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said it is not right for a president of a nation the size of the United States to go around threatening the world on the internet. The world has changed. We don't want an emperor, Lula said. If he thinks he can impose tariffs on countries, countries also have the right to do the same. In Beijing, the foreign ministry said it opposed the idea of using tariffs for coercion and pressuring, and that protectionism harms the interest of all parties. A spokesperson stressed BRICS focuses on openness and win-win cooperation, saying it does not see confrontation, nor does it target any country. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Since decades before the U.S. tariff wars, Brazil has been slapping taxes and tariffs in a bid to drive domestic industries. So does this Brazil model work? Michelle Chan relocated to Rio de Janeiro some 20 years ago. Despite Brazil's abundance in agricultural products, most daily goods have to be imported, and the import prices frustrate her deeply. Exasperated, Chen questions why they cost so much, and that's because of the sky-high tariffs. For instance, a designer bag here costs around $2,000 in the States, but sets Brazilians back some $3,000. That means an extra $1,000 or 7,800 Hong Kong dollars. A China-made iPhone sold for $799 in the US costs $1,600 for a Brazil version. To cut costs, Chan travels to the US and Europe every few months just to shop. Living here forces us to shop abroad, and lower tariffs would vastly improve life here, she said. Brazil's decades-long tariffs have aimed to boost domestic industry. Still, for over 20 years, its average annual GDP growth was just around 2%. The economic contributions from the manufacturing sector plunged from around 36% in the 1980s to around 14% today. Shangguan Jianfeng, chairman of an import and export trading company in Brazil, says 70% of the prices among beauty products here are taxes. He says there are production tax, sales tax, import tax, consumption tax, and so on. Profits are low, but costs just keep rising, he laments. He argues Brazil's inadequate supply chains also mean tariffs are ineffective in boosting sectors including the auto and shipbuilding industries. He explains high tariffs block technology transfer, harming local industries. The trade veteran says international trade barriers should be removed to lower costs for businesses and improve the overall livelihood of Brazilians. A record 95% of Hong Kong's primary 6 students were assigned to their top 3 choices of secondary schools, with 85% getting into their most preferred institution. Educators attribute the high number of successful allocations to shrinking pupil numbers and a more prudent selection strategy. Samantha Lee tells us more.
Screams, tears of joy. and applause filled the classroom after these students received their secondary school placement results. This girl was in tears after securing her top choice school. She said she pinched her cheeks to make sure she was not dreaming. Some parents hugged their kids after learning the good news. This boy was assigned to his dream school, St. Joseph's College, despite an earlier setback at the discretionary placement stage. His mom said it was a relief to know the result, as the whole family had done a lot of preparation. She said they thought they would end up door knocking at the school if her son couldn't get in. His dad said they let their son play football and join debate competitions in a bid to fit into the profile of the desired school. This year, a total of 48,011 students took part in the secondary school places allocation, 3,382 fewer than last year. Under the system, pupils are granted secondary school places in 2 stages. The first batch is assigned through discretionary placement, and the rest have to participate in the central allocation round. Polly Chan, the principal of Yaomate Catholic Primary School, said the high satisfaction rate this year may be due to a lower birth rate and less competition. Another reason, parents have made their choices more prudently, as more students from the talent schemes may compete for the late placement places. The Education Bureau reminded that all students have to complete registration at the allocated schools this Thursday or Friday. Failure to do so will be taken as giving up the school place. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.